Hello, everybody. Hey to everybody in the chat, and hello to the members of the channel. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Natalie, and this is Scientology Life After a Cult, where during the week in the mornings, you'll catch us recapping the Scientology news that has the internet buzzing as we expose Scientology one news recap at a time. I also do interviews in and around the community, which is what we're doing today. So when you do hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit the notification bell so you can get those notifications. And everybody who is already here and so fabulous, please go hit that like button for me. We can get out even more notifications. Big thank you to my mods. I know that Nancy is here. We might just be Nancy right now. I'm always like, who is here? All right, you guys, I am super excited. I have been wanting to speak to the SP Chef, as he goes by here on YouTube. He's been putting out a lot of great content, not just his own story in growing up in Scientology and the Sea Organization, but he combines two of my favorite things, and that's food and Scientology cult stuff. And he makes cookies and does things also as he talks about Scientology and shares his story. And I absolutely love it. Kelly Copter, hey, good to see you there. I'm so glad that you're here. So glad that you're here. And I think Jay's here too. Hey, Jay, good to see you. Glad you're powering up. This is going to be a fun one because you guys may have wondered, are you already a suppressive person by Scientology standards? How do you know? Am I living up to the title of suppressive person? I myself needed to review those Scientology materials and know for sure. So Samuel, the SP Chef, and I are going to go through these points that would make you a suppressive person by Scientology standards. And if you're not already there, guess what? Scientology has ideas on how you can get there, and you too can be a suppressive person. So we're going to go through all of it and make sure you understand. But first off, I want to bring to the main stage and welcome the SP Chef, Samuel. Everybody say hip, hip, hooray.
Hello, darling. So lovely being here.
You know, it's my
Looking
absolute
fabulous.
favorite thing when you say that. I'm like, you say it at the beginning of your videos, and I like,
It's become a little bit my catchphrase. Do you know Dame Edna Everage?
Dame Edna?
Yeah.
I don't know that last name, but I know Dame Edna, the performer.
Yeah, exactly. She would always start with "Hello, possums." So I don't know if that's maybe influence from there, but you know.
Yes, hello, darlings. I absolutely love
Hello.
that. I love it too.
Yeah.
Looks like everybody in the chat loves it too. Everybody, make sure you check out the SP Chef here on YouTube. Here is Samuel's channel. You can go over there and hit that subscribe button and be up to date. You might want to set your notification bell for all too, because Samuel puts out some really great content and has a lot of fun with it. So,
Quite right.
now, we have been chatting about the things that make someone a suppressive person in Scientology. How do you know? Do you pass the test? And if you are not suppressive enough, if you just haven't channeled enough of that suppressive person energy, Scientology tells us how you actually can do it and how you can glow up to be a suppressive person in the eyes of Scientology.
That's right.
I think we're going to have a ton of fun with it. Can you, before we kind of get going with that, can you kind of, for people who might not be familiar with your story, just kind of share a brief overview of your time in Scientology, the Sea Org, you know, when you got in and when you left and all that?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up as the third child in a Scientology family. So I grew up in Scientology from the get-go, and my parents were both staff members, and we actually lived above the org. So, by the way, I am from Switzerland. I grew up in Switzerland, and this was in Basel. And so I grew up above the org, so I was always around the org all the time. I started courses very early on, TRs and all of that good stuff. And then when I was 9 years old, I decided, because of course I am an adult in a child's body, to sign my billion-year contract. And when I was then 13 years old, I was then shipped off to England, to East Grinstead, to St. Hill, to work there, first as a cadet from 13 until 16. And then with 16, I did the EPF, which is basically the boot camp before you are allowed to start actually to work as a SIG member. And then from 16 until 20, I worked in the SIOC. At first, I worked in the canteen, which is a small, like a kiosk where you can buy your coffee, your tea, some snacks or something like that. And then afterwards, I was posted in the kitchen, or the galley, as they would call it, and I would cook the food for all the staff. And then when I was 20, this was in 2012, that's when I left the SIOC. And I was still an active Scientologist for a while. And then I would say it took some time to sort of decode everything that has happened. And that mainly happened with me because I was forced away from Scientology, because I had to do my military service. And after that, I went to do apprenticeship and went to culinary school. And I didn't have any money or time anymore to go to Scientology. So at the end, I wasn't in connection with Scientology for about 4 years. And that helped me to sort of start to question things, look at things and say, what's this exactly? What's that exactly? I started to work with people who had nothing to do with Scientology, and realized, well, they are successful, they're doing well, and yet they never had anything to do with Scientology. And I suddenly realized, okay, maybe you can do well without Scientology. And I would say in 2017, that's when I was able to say to myself, all right, I'm not a Scientologist anymore. And and now I'm here being fabulous.
I love it. And I'm so glad you got out of there. It's always interesting. It's similar to my experience. For many of us, leaving Scientology is a process. And if you were in the Sea Org, it often starts with, well, I'm just going to leave the Sea Org, but I'm still going to be a public Scientologist. And you try to do right by, especially if you have family in Scientology, and just try to ride that wave. And eventually, it's interesting to me that you had this 4 years away from Scientology, and that's really what it took. And that makes a lot of sense, because that's why they want you constantly on course, constantly getting auditing, because they know, out of sight, out of mind, because there's not truly enough in Scientology that would keep people there otherwise, if they were exposed to what they could be doing out in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, they were just trying to prevent you from being fabulous, and they failed.
Obviously. Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at this. I'm going to pull up, you guys. We have a copy of, I believe it's the 1978 Introduction to Scientology Ethics book. And I point this out because nobody can say, well, that was altered by L. Ron Hubbard. No, this is what he said. This is what it said, and this is what people go off of. And truthfully, not much of it changed anyways in the newer Introduction to Scientology Ethics book. So just to kind of give people just a little brief, as I make you dizzy, I'm going to give you a little brief overall here. A little overview. So this is from the Introduction to Scientology Ethics. And just so you understand, from the viewpoint of Scientology, all that ethics is for, the totality of the reason for its existence and operations, is simply that additional tool necessary to make it possible to apply the technology of Scientology. So in Scientology, they would always say, well, we just, put in ethics, in other words, discipline enough so that L. Ron Hubbard's technology can seep in and go in. And if you're not buying it, if you're not picking up what L. Ron Hubbard is putting down, it is because you are, as they say in Scientology, out ethics. Your ethics are out. You are committing overts and withholds and blah, blah, blah. Did you, as a Sea Org member, you would have done, isn't one of the boot camp, Sea Org boot camp courses, one about ethics?
Yes, there is an EPF course called Sea Org, Introduction to Scientology Ethics. So it's the same title as the other one, but it's only Sea Org, and it has many references from the ethics book, but also some FOs, FOs being flag orders, so policies specifically only to be seen by Sea Org members or people obviously in the EPF.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. That's right. So this is really interesting, because that is not what actually happens in Scientology. Ethics and their discipline just continues the minute you're just not towing the line. Yeah. So we are going to go through, because in here is, well, L. Ron Hubbard talks about the actual suppressive acts, or high crimes, as they're called in Scientology, that you would need to commit if you were a suppressive person, or to be declared or labeled as a suppressive person. let me
Mm.
just get to that. That just, it always just blows my mind because it's like some of this stuff is funny. Some of it we're going to have to explain,
Yeah.
but some of it you'll probably remember, I'm sure, Samuel. And I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
wait to find out where you're at with these.
Mm.
Okay, so kind of jumping into it here, a suppressive person or group is one that actively seeks to suppress or damage Scientology or a Scientologist by suppressive acts. And I would say that I definitely, though I have no wish to damage Scientologists, I do have intentions and I actively seek to suppress and damage Scientology itself. Where do you land on that one?
Yeah, what I do remember from these suppressive acts, they were always like very extreme in the sense of you're there to destroy Scientology. Well, quite frankly, I'm not, I don't think we can destroy it as such, even if Scientology as a religion or whatever sort of goes away, all the books are still there, and just some lunatic is still going to pick it up and do something with it. My intention really is to expose it, to show, well, this is what it is. If you want to go and do Scientology, fair enough, but listen to the people who were actually there. Listen to your elders. See what they went through, what is their experience, and then if you really insist and really want to do that, all right, go ahead and do it. But think about these things. Keep your um, critical mind, be critical, question things, and don't let your own integrity be compromised. If you go and do it, this is something I said to one of my own family members who wants to do the bridge. I said, all right, you can do that. It's your own money. You're an adult. But if you want to do clear, well, look at the definition of a clear. Look what is the goal of it at the end. Are you reaching this? And only once you've reached that, be satisfied and say, all right, now I'm a clear. And I told him already, well, eventually you will probably give up and say that you are, because you have to pay for it. You pay
Mm-hmm.
for the package, you pay for a certain amount of auditing, and then afterwards you just have to pay more and more and more until you actually reach it.
Yeah, that's
So
right. That's right.
so that is sort of my attitude of I don't really want to destroy Scientology, because I just don't think that is possible as such, but I want to destroy or disband the organization as it is.
Mm.
Or at least, if not disbanded, force them to show what is on the bridge. Just show them, well, this is what we are all about, rather than just hide it and make it all mysterious and exciting. And then after 20, 30 years of being there and spending so much money, and only then do you realize what you actually sign up for, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally, totally. Now that's a great point of view. People should find out for themselves. I'm still leaning towards destroying Scientology, but maybe that's because I am evil.
Possible.
So let's take a look at this now. So these are the actual acts. So as we go along here, people, maybe, keep a little piece of paper and a pen, and for everything that you have already done or can check off this list, give yourself 1 point for each one, and we'll see how many that you have. So one of their very first, now these are high crimes in Scientology, suppressive acts. This is like the worst possible things that you can be
Yeah.
doing in Scientology.
Hmm.
Like it says like you'll get cancellation of certificates, classifications, and awards, and assignment of a condition of enemy are among the
Hmm.
penalties which can be leveled for this type of offense, as well as those recommended by a committee of evidence, which is basically like a court martial for Scientologists.
Yeah.
So here we go. Attacks on Scientology and Scientologists. So, Samuel, let's ask ourselves this one. Have you ever, this is like playing, well, like truth or dare almost, proposing, advising, or voting
Mhm.
for legislation or ordinances, rules, or laws directed towards the suppression of Scientology? So I guess that's like, have you ever, done anything to
Mm.
back a law or an ordinance that would actually suppress
Yeah.
Scientology? Proposing
Or,
advice.
or, or I would think that would also include a politician. Like if you have a politician who
Yeah.
has a very strong stance against Scientology, and you would vote for the politician or you would show support, I
Hmm.
would I could imagine that it's included in that. Um, Yes, I would say, yeah, I have definitely done that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
me
already I got
too.
1 point already. Marvelous.
Anybody who supported, even if you didn't live in Clearwater, if you
Mhm.
supported Mark Bunker, if you
Right.
liked the video he
Good
was in
point.
with Aaron, you
Yeah,
have done this. Give yourself 1 point.
exactly. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Testifying hostilely before state or public inquiries into Scientology to suppress it. So, again, testifying hostily before
Mm,
state or public inquiries into Scientology to suppress it. So basically, have you ever spoken to the government, the FBI? I think law enforcement would fall under that
oh,
banner.
right. Yeah. In that case, I have to say yes. I have
Oh,
actually.
that's a yes for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, did I hostily before state or public inquiries into Scientology to suppress it? Well, I have contributed to that, though I have not testified directly. So you know what? I would probably give myself half a point on that one. But yeah, if
Mm,
you've ever testified, you've in a court case, or you've even, I think, given a statement to even law enforcement, I think would fall under that.
yeah.
Uh, Inquiries into Scientology to suppress it. I mean, I have done that with law enforcement, so maybe I'll take a whole point there. So
Mm,
if you have done that, give yourself another point. If you have not, add it to your list of things to do to become more suppressive.
exactly.
Let's see. Okay, here's a good one. So, have you ever made public statements against Scientology or Scientologists, but not to a committee of evidence duly convened? So, in other
Oh
words,
yeah.
have you talked crap about Scientology publicly?
I think
Mhm.
yeah. 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 Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
definitely. And
Although,
that would
frankly, we
also,
were just, I mean, you and I and I mean, everybody else is pretty much not talking crap. We're just saying the truth. I mean,
yeah,
you know, if the
yeah.
truth is crap, then equals Scientology is crap, you know?
Yeah, for them it would be crap, but you're basically, I mean, because it just says public statements against Scientology or
Yeah.
Scientologists. And I
Yeah.
think that most of us here, if you had commented on YouTube at any point,
Mm,
anywhere publicly, even off of YouTube, and said
yeah.
something against Scientology, you can give yourself a point for being suppressive.
Mm,
I-
yeah.
If you have not, then people, you need to get busy. And in the comment, basically, you could check this one off if you haven't done it. You can right now make a public statement against Scientology or Scientologists in the
Right.
comments or in the live chat, and you can check this
Yes.
one off.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely being here on YouTube. Well, this one will be interesting. Tell me if you've done this one here. And again, these are the most suppressive of suppressive acts in the eyes of Scientology. These are the things, if you've done it, it makes you a suppressive person.
Yeah.
Reporting or threatening to report Scientology or Scientologists to civil authorities in an effort to suppress Scientology or Scientologists from practicing or receiving standard technology. So I guess if you've ever reported or threatened to report on Scientology or Scientologists to actual civil authorities. I've
Yeah.
definitely done this. How about you?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, me too. I mean, that's very similar to another one before where we're talking about also, talking to the police or something, you know?
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, you know what Scientology loves to do is to reword the question. So they're gonna ask
Oh,
you the
oh my
same
God. Yeah.
thing more than one time.
Yeah.
Me and Taz, you just committed a suppressive act in the eyes of
How dare
Scientology.
you?
We're going to give you a point. My public
Yeah.
statement, Scientology sucks. You are one more step towards becoming a suppressive person.
Congrats.
Congratulations. Yeah, that one's kind of an easy one to do. Now, let's see. So we did public statement. We did reporting or threatening to report. Now, here's one I'm not sure I can check a box on: bringing civil suit against any Scientology organization or Scientologist, including the non payment of bills or failure to refund without first calling the matter to the attention of the chairman at Worldwide and receiving a reply. So basically, have you ever brought a suit against Scientology for anything, including the non-payment of bills, which don't you think, Samuel, it's interesting they put that in there? So they're basically like, say you own a building and you rent it to Scientology and you're a
Yeah.
Scientologist and they don't
Mm.
pay you and they fall
Yeah.
behind on their rent. Guess what you cannot do?
Mm.
Make a complaint. What do you think about
Yeah.
that one?
Well, that's very cleverly thought out, I would say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's bringing civil suit, so basically now I've never actually brought a suit against Scientology,
Mm.
so I'm probably lost a point for suppressiveness there.
Yeah. Me neither. I haven't done that yet.
No, not yet, but now that I know it's actually on the list,
It's on the
well,
bucket list. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, if it's not on your list, add it to your suppressive bucket list. And this is bringing civil suit against Scientology or Scientologists. That
Mm-hmm.
is interesting too, because again, Scientologist owes you money. Let's say that this was happening all over the place in Scientology during what they called the chase wave. They would
Oh yeah.
run up people's credit cards or
Mm-hmm.
get credit cards like what happened to Mike Brown's mom as a Sea Org member. They got credit cards in Rosemary's name, gave them to Scientologists who used to jack up for Scientology services. Yet Rosemary would never have been allowed to take civil action against those Scientologists for
Yeah.
not paying her back.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Absolutely.
doesn't it seem to you like what does it feel so far like the theme is here?
The theme is show us the money, and you better shut up.
Yes. That's exactly right. Show us the money and you better shut up. Yeah, so I've not brought suit, so that's the first one I think I totally cannot take point on. If you have been
Yeah.
involved in a civil suit against Scientology or Scientologists, go ahead and give yourself a point for being a suppressive person. If not, add it to the suppressive bucket list. All right, so moving on. Writing anti Scientology letters to the press or giving anti Scientology or anti Scientologist evidence to the press. I feel
Mm.
like that's an easy one because here on YouTube, I mean, we are the press in many
Yeah.
ways. And even prior to that, I went and did a story with the Tampa Bay Times about the coerced abortions in Scientology. How about you, Samuel? Have you ever written any? Now, this was written in 1978, so emails would also apply. Writing anti
Sure.
Scientology letters to the press or giving anti Scientology or anti Scientologist evidence to the press. Have you ever done
Well,
anything like that?
I would definitely agree that YouTube is the press of the modern age. But
Mhm.
I actually have done an interview, which I'm not really allowed to talk about much at home because I haven't yet. An interview, and I have submitted evidence for a, and so hopefully we'll be out of that soon. But it's taking a long time because I have to go with all the lawyers to make sure everything is
You
out that
just
I say that I've actually seen, that I've actually experienced generality or whatever.
you're just freezing up just a little bit
Soon.
there, Samuel. Maybe your internet will come back there. I can see
Okay.
you more now. It was just a little bit blurry and freezing up. That's fantastic. I
Yeah.
cannot wait to see whatever that is. So as soon as you can, you got to tell me so that we can share it once you're able to speak about whatever that is. Oh, I think you're freezing.
Oh yeah.
Samuel, do you want
I
to
will. I
come?
will.
Okay, good. You heard me. All right. I wonder, do you want to try going out and back in just to see if that helps a little bit with the connection and make sure if you have any oh wait, no, now it's really clearing up. Okay. I think
Yeah.
we'll be
Now
okay.
it's fine. Okay. Good.
It's
Okay. Good.
amazing that we can even do this because you're in Switzerland and I'm in
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Fluffer Scroll UK, we know you are totally guilty of this. You may have sent Natalie an email or two. Yes, you have. Ding, ding, ding. You get points for being suppressive on this one. And again, if you have not done this, it would not be hard to do. If you find out anything a Scientologist or Scientology is doing, go ahead and send it to me, and you will be able to check this one off your bucket list of suppressive acts. So, yeah, writing anti Scientology letters, we can check that one off. We've both done that one.
Yeah.
Now, here's an interesting thing because to me, number 7 is very similar to bringing a civil suit, right? Or public statements, but it's
Mhm.
worded as testifying as a hostile witness against Scientology in public. You can tell they
Right.
really had a problem with lawsuits back when this was written. Remember, this was written
Yeah.
in 1978, people. What does that
Yeah.
tell you? What was going on where L. Ron Hubbard felt he needed to come up with a whole list of don't be suing us, don't be talking about us, don't be talking to other people about us either.
Mm.
Testifying as a hostile witness against Scientology in public. Do you think that that applies specifically to like a witness? You know, like you could go on today, you could go onto YouTube and testify as a witness about the crimes of Scientology, or you could do it in a formal courtroom. I feel like today either one would apply. What do you think?
Yeah, because obviously back then there was no YouTube, so I'm sure he only meant really in the courtroom. But really, I mean, YouTube is in a way a courtroom in a way that people do like to talk about the different crimes and all of that has happened and draw their own conclusion of it and so on and so forth, and looking at the evidence. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good one. And neuropsych, she says too, I think YouTube counts.
yeah,
I think so. So if you've done this on YouTube, we will take that and you take a point for being suppressive. If not, add to your suppressive bucket list that you need to write some anti-Scientology or I'm sorry, you need to testify as a hostile witness against Scientology in public.
mm,
Okay, so here's an interesting one. Being at the higher of anti-Scientology groups or persons. Being at the higher of anti-Scientology groups or persons. So I guess being hired by anti-Scientology groups or persons, like if say I hired somebody to help like create shorts for my channel or
right.
anything and they
Mm.
engaged in that. So what do you think about this one? Do you think this is one that you've done?
No, no. I mean, I haven't gotten my paycheck from pharmaceutical companies yet, so I'm not on the hire in that sense. But yeah, um, if I were to work for somebody on YouTube, doing, like for example, for yourself to
Mhm.
edit something or whatever, that would count, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. Being at the higher of anti-Scientology groups or persons. So
Yeah,
this is really interesting. So it's not even saying specifically like being hired to harm Scientology. It says
yeah,
being at the higher of. So basically, if you go to work for somebody who is against Scientology in a dental office, but you're working for a dentist who is against Scientology, that would be a
yeah.
suppressive act in Scientology.
Yeah, the idea probably behind it is because um, you're supporting a suppressive person, right? You're supporting somebody who is against Scientology. Even
Mhm.
as you said with the example, you're a dentist or you're a dentist assistant. You have nothing to do with that whole anti-Scientology idea maybe behind it, but you are somehow giving more money to this kind of person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very true. That's very true. So Lathanda, thank you for that, says, how many points do I get for being German? DM declared Germany as a suppressive country. So I should be a
Wow.
natural born SP,
Born
right? Love
SP.
to.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
did
Yeah.
he really?
I heard about that. I heard about that. I don't. I've only heard it from other Silk members in the past. I've never actually heard him say that. I maybe was too young at the time when he actually declared that. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting, interesting. And yeah, Fluffer Squirrel, if you own a company, it's automatically full of SPs. So all of you out there who
Yeah.
follow
Yeah.
SPTV, watch my channel, watch Samuel's, if you own your own business, everyone working for you is committing a suppressive act in the eyes of Scientology, making
Yeah.
them a little baby SP.
Yeah.
That's a tricky one. But do you see, for me, I'm really seeing a theme too of how can we control? I can't help but think what was happening in 1978. Like you could read this now and it would still apply. But
Yeah.
what was happening in 1978 that L. Ron Hubbard came up with these things? That's one thing I think people really need to remember. Oh, that's probably why Germany banned
Mm.
Scientology at one point, right?
I mean, it is on the watch list because, um, well, because obviously what we had in Germany of the with the Third Reich and all of that, and because Hubbard states very clearly, I don't remember where it was exactly, maybe you remember, where he says, well, the ideal scenario would be that only Scientologists could vote, only Scientologists can be in government. I think he even went so far to say only Scientologists are allowed to have children, and this sort of um, idea and narrative very much reflects the narrative of the Nazis at the time. You know, only we are the better race. You know, we are better than everybody else, and only we are allowed to make the decisions and things like that. And Germany obviously is very attentive to that. So that's why now Scientology in Germany is being watched by by an arm of the government for these sort of extremist groups.
Oh,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. That's some serious tea there. That makes sense now. All right, so let's see. Let me pull this back up and we are on. Ooh, here's a good one. Infiltrating a Scientology group or organization or staff to stir up discontent or protest at the instigation of hostile forces. So that's
Mm.
interesting. So you're infiltrating it or you're protesting. That's my takeaway. What do you think, Samuel?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Going in there pretending to be a new public, or maybe you were already a public, and then you sort of woke up and you decided, you know what, I'm gonna stay inside, maybe get some documents, maybe spread discontentment, go to oh, Natalie, did you hear this guy? He left. He was an OT8 and he left. That's weird, isn't it? And things like that. Yeah.
I think I would qualify under that one too. When my
Mm-hmm.
last 2 years in Scientology, I basically was just pretending to be with it, trying to remain a
Right.
Scientologist in good standing to get my daughter out because
Mm-hmm.
she was
Mm-hmm.
in Florida at Flag. So at that point, I definitely felt like I was infiltrating because I wasn't really there. I didn't really try to stir up. Well, no, I guess I did online. I was involved in some discontent and definite protest at the instigation
Yeah.
of hostile forces.
Some serious tea spilling.
Absolutely. You know
Mm-hmm.
who's very guilty of that suppressive act would be Reckless Ben here on YouTube, as I understand it, did a whole series infiltrating Scientology.
Oh, Reckless Ben. Yeah, yeah. And then he I think he started his own religion. Scientology sucks. He
That's
made a
right.
religion called Scientology sucks.
That
Yeah.
is fantastic. I
Yeah.
remember he was projecting that onto the blue
That's right.
buildings.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so good. Kenjuru says, I think they should add to the list. If you listen to Natalie, you're automatically declared.
Mm-hmm.
You would definitely get some really good suppressive person points for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They would see something
Mm-hmm.
wrong with that. Okay, here's the big one. Mutiny.
Mm.
Mutiny.
Which is beautifully unspecific.
Yeah, exactly. So what do we think he means by mutiny? I guess like getting the other staff to see that, hey, we're working for no money. Why should we stay up all night writing letters or stamping promo pieces? Let's
Yeah.
all walk.
Yeah. That's right.
Mutiny. Have I ever, unless you count my own family rising up in mutiny against
Right.
Scientology, I
Mm-hmm.
cannot say that, like within the organization itself, I'd never tried to rally people or be like, hey, let's rise up against Scientology. I mean, I
Mm.
did after I was no longer a Scientologist, but I guess they would see that as mutiny because
Sure.
there were a few other families who left with me on account of Scientology just being buttholes and telling them lots of weird things where they went, wait a minute, if you're saying this about Natalie, then like, what are you saying about us?
Yeah.
Totally
Yeah.
backfired. Have you
No,
ever
nothing.
committed mutiny?
No, no. I mean, when I left this, I was still very much. I believed in everything. I was completely convinced of it. It took me about 5 years to sort of mentally leave, and it happened very slowly and sort of quietly. So I never really had any sort of mutiny as such. No, neither when I was in the. I'm just thinking about it because when I was in the
Yeah.
catalog, I was a child. I was quite, you know, I didn't exactly follow all the rules. I'm just thinking, have I ever said sort of like everybody just let's just do something? No, I don't think so. I don't think I did that.
Okay, well,
But
you need to
you know,
add mutiny to your suppressive person
absolutely,
bucket list.
yeah,
Get out there and do some mutiny with Scientology, which again, like what church? Mutiny. If you commit
exactly.
mutiny. Oh, so funny. Okay, moving on from mutiny, we have receiving money, favors, or encouragement to suppress Scientology or Scientologists. So, money, you've gotten money, favors,
Hmm.
or encouragement to suppress Scientology. This is interesting, Samuel. Receiving, it's not saying you did it.
Yeah.
Receiving money, receiving favors,
Hmm.
receiving encouragement to suppress Scientology.
Yeah.
Huh. So let's see, where do we fall on that one?
Well, I would definitely fall on the encouragement by just you doing a video and then somebody leaves a comment like, "Oh, this is great. Thank you so much for the speaking out," or whatever.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
receiving encouragement, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Receiving
Yeah.
money, favors, or encouragement to suppress Scientology or Scientologists. Well, any of you who are members or have super chatted, you
Right.
are
Yes.
guilty of this. So
Guilty.
if you
Yeah.
super chat myself or Samuel,
Mm.
you are committing a suppressive act.
Yeah. So we're not saying you should do it. We're
Yeah,
just saying, you know, it's something you could do.
you could do.
Potentially
It'd
you
be
could, of course.
mutiny
Yeah.
and encouraging the suppression of Scientology through money, favors, or encouragement. And I do come online every single morning and encourage people to suppress Scientology. So I feel like I can take that point for sure.
Yeah.
Everybody else, let me know how you're doing on points. If not, remember, you can add this one to your bucket list, your suppressive person bucket list. And yeah, I will give you encouragement to suppress Scientology. Once you receive that encouragement, then, it is, you
Perfect.
can check that one and take the point.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, and Michelle made a good point, donating to the Aftermath or SPTV Foundation.
Excellent. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
definitely.
Nancy says, I love all the suppression going on here. That's right, BTV. Suppress the oppressors. Fluffer Squirrel says, I dish out the encouragement. That's right. We do it
Hmm.
every day, all day. We do.
We serve it.
That's right. We serve it. Publicly resigning staff or executive position in protest or with the intent to suppress. Isn't that interesting?
Hmm.
Publicly resigning staff or executive position in protest or with the intent to suppress. They basically want to put Scientologists in a position of never being able to tell somebody that you want to leave or you're leaving or you left.
Funny thing happened a couple of months ago at work. This happened. And I thought to myself, oh my God, like this could never have happened while I was in Scientology. And one of my coworker came to me and said, oh, hi, Samuel. I just wanted to let you know, I quit and I'll be working until the end of June. And then after that, I'll be going off to somewhere else, to pursue my career somewhere else. Just wanted to let you know. And probably somewhere in June, and my replacement will come, and then I will show them around. And she said in such a casual way, because of course that is completely normal
Yeah.
to do that sort of thing, right? But you could never do that in the SEOC. Whenever
Mhm.
some in the SEOC or as a staff member, if for example, when I was routing out of the SEOC, at first I still had to work at the stables, which is where the galley was, the kitchen was to cook the food because we were so understaffed, right? But then
Yeah.
after a while, they had to remove me, and I was put on what is called messed work, mess being
Mm.
meta energy, space, and time. So anything physical is messed. And so I had to go and work in the gardens to remove myself so people do not see me anymore. And then the
Mhm.
funny thing happens is that nobody sort of asks, well, what happened to that person? What happened to that person? You just know if you don't see somebody for a while, either they died, they left, or they were promoted to some other organization, or they were moved to some other organization, and you never ask, you never talk about it. It's just such a bizarre thing. And yeah, that was, yeah, just really weird, being
Yeah.
reminded that that is actually completely normal to do that. And then back
Yeah.
then, there was no way this could have happened.
Yeah, you don't need to just disappear and Irish goodbye people because you're not,
Yeah, yeah,
like you can actually say goodbye.
yeah,
And some
exactly.
people, this is going to really blow your mind. You probably already know about this. Sometimes they even will throw a party for somebody who's
Yeah,
leaving, like
yeah,
retiring or going
yeah,
somewhere else.
yeah.
That one's crazy.
That's celebrating somebody who's retiring. Excuse me? I mean, the very thought of that in the Siok. Oh, you can't, you're too old to walk. Oh, that's fine. We'll get your job sitting down. Oh, you can't move your right hand anymore, so you can't stuff letters anymore. Okay, you can still use your left. Okay, good. You're gonna be on a computer clicking away until you just keel over, basically.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
100% right there. And
Mm.
Auntie Saza just committed a suppressive act.
Congratulations, darlings.
That is a
Absolutely marvelous.
high crime suppressive act there. You better
Well
watch
done.
that. We got all kinds of suppression happening. Kim became a new member. That is absolutely suppressive. You have
It
now
is.
joined a suppressive group. You people are out of control.
Absolutely. Out ethics.
Out ethics. Mexican long hair. I'm a mega SP. I'm going to
Wow.
hell. No doubt. No doubt. Because
Well,
now
darling, if we're all going to hell, it's going to be so fabulous. So don't worry about it.
we'll all be there together, just braiding each other's hair and, singing
Well, I don't
kumbaya.
know about my hair, but
All right. So next one. Next one. So you cannot publicly resign. We get that.
Mm,
Now, this one is really interesting to me. Theft or espionage for another group or government. Theft
mm,
or espionage for another group or government. People,
mm-hmm.
it's not theft or espionage, period, as a
Yeah,
Scientologist. No, no, no,
right.
no. You can do theft and espionage for Scientology, but it
Mm,
is a suppressive act to do theft or espionage for another group. That's L. Ron Hubbard. You guys all just saw it and read it. Samuel,
yeah.
tell me your take on this one.
I find that interesting because theft is something I was quite familiar with within the SEOC because I was, as I said earlier, in the canteen. And in the canteen, you pay obviously money to buy the items that whatever you wanted to get, you get a coffee or whatever. And whenever I was not there at the till, actually getting the money, and I just had like a basket with a few coins, things just didn't add up because I had to keep a very close tab on all my stock, everything that I had. And then, I sold 8 of these, 3 of those, 5 of those. So in the end, I should have this much money, and it just wouldn't work out. And the funny thing is that when people would leave the SEOC, sometimes during their investigation of the person to find out what are all of their crimes, they find out, well, actually, they have been taking stuff from the canteen for years. And then suddenly I would get just £100 or £50 from this or that person because it came up that they took over the years. So just give a larger round amount to sort of make up the damage of it. So that is the sort of thing that happens, and it's perfectly fine in the sense of you justify. You say, well, I only got $10 this week for pay, and I have to be sessionable, so I'm forced to take these things, and you
Mhm.
justify, and it's perfectly okay to do that. But how dare you to do it in any sort of other way around, doing it against Scientology in the sense of you're doing it for another organization, for somebody outside of
Mhm.
Scientology. That is an absolute no-go. But
Yeah.
inside, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Theft or espionage for another organization is a highly suppressive act in Scientology. Keep in
Mm,
mind, this was written in 1978. What else was happening around that time? Well, L. Ron Hubbard's wife was going to jail, being sentenced to prison with a total of about 11 Scientologists who did what? Committed one of the largest infiltrations of the government in history. They infiltrated 136 government agencies. You want to talk about espionage, but that is not a suppressive act because they did it
no,
for
sir.
Scientology. Then you're okay.
Yeah.
You're okay. It just, you really get a feel for like how and why this works here. CR is saying, what are the side benefits of being an SP? Will there be certificate, graduation? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
First, this is an assessment to find out where all of you are, if you've been slacking, what you need to work on and still do. We're just trying to like create suppressive people left and right here.
that's right.
It's it's called community. Okay, so here's another one that's a little weird to me. Pronouncing Scientologists guilty of the practice of standard Scientology. So pronouncing
Wow.
Scientologists guilty of the practice of practicing standard Scientology. Here's where my mind goes right to. Oh, child auditing, the Rehabilitation Project Force,
Mm-hmm.
beans and rice, sleep deprivation. So basically telling a Scientologist or Scientology that, hey, that stuff's wrong. Your doctrine, your policies, what you're doing is not okay. And you're guilty of those practices. That
Mm-hmm.
is a suppressive act. So have
Yeah.
you done that, Samuel?
Uh, well, I mean, can you? Yeah, can you? I want to
Yeah,
see
listen to
again.
this
Is
one
it?
again.
Mm-hmm.
Pronouncing Scientologists guilty of the practice of standard technology. So
Oh yeah,
basically,
yeah.
holding them
Mhm.
accountable for something they did that L. Ron Hubbard said they could, but someplace
Exactly.
else
Yeah.
they can't.
Yeah. No. Totally. I mean, obviously, having done the videos that I have, criticizing, uh, holding up as you're doing right now with references that Hubbard actually wrote and show, okay, this is what he said that we should
Yeah.
do or we shouldn't do or whatever. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We're basically everybody here right now. You got to go hit the like button because that means you've done this. You are basically pronouncing Scientologists guilty of the practice of standard Scientology. Because that is what the issue is at the core of these abuses in Scientology. It's part of the doctrine. Big
Yeah.
beans and little bodies, children, that's part of the doctrine. This is part of the belief in Scientology. So it's, yeah, you just be forewarned. You all in here are probably guilty of this one. Or you get to take it as a point, I should say. That is a good one, though. That seems like it's an easy one to do. Now, Samuel, I'm sure you've not done this one. Engaging in malicious rumor mongering to destroy the authority or repute of higher officers or the leading names of Scientology or to safeguard a position. So basically, malicious rumor mongering to destroy the reputation of a high up Scientologist. Oh gosh, I did that this morning.
Really? Do tell.
During the
Do tell.
recap. Ooh, I was talking all about Tom Cruise and what a crappy dad he
Oh right.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. You're right.
that
You're right. Yeah.
that would definitely be engaging in malicious rumor mongering to destroy the
Mm.
authority or repute of higher officers, people higher up in Scientology. I definitely do that on
Yeah.
a daily basis. How would you relate to that one?
I probably did that, but unconsciously maybe. Just because when you talk about Scientology and people involved in it just sort of automatically do criticize higher authority.
Yeah.
So I would give myself half a point
Yeah,
because
half a
I don't
point.
think I did it. I don't think I did it directly, but I think I did it sort of indirectly in a way. Yeah, half a point
Oh
for me.
yeah. No, I am all about what is it again? It's, engaging in malicious rumor mongering. Yeah, I did that this morning. We talked about how Tom Cruise is a deadbeat dad and John Travolta may have, taken a vow of celibacy. Those are all
Mm,
rumors, and I mongered. I monger all day.
mm,
That would definitely count there. Oh, sweet sun slice, suppressive act, right there, right there.
yeah.
Yep, it absolutely counts. Saying that about David Miscavige. Merrily, good point. Good point. Someone isn't being suppressive enough. Which one of you are lacking in suppression and not hitting the like button? I'm
There's
telling
no
you.
there's no and too much suppression, right? There can always be more suppression, just like with cooking.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Exactly, exactly. I will put a link to this in the description of this video to
Mm,
make sure. And Leanie Gee, I love the commitment. Can I print that list somewhere? I want 100% pass. I admire that type of dedication. This is what we need to see more of, more supporting of suppressive groups like the one here and so on. And yeah, Marilee says, ain't a rumor if it's true. That is true, actually. That is true. That is true. That's very true. All right, let's see which one's next here. So, when we're not rumor mongering as suppressive people, we are delivering up the person of a Scientologist without defense or protest to the demands of civil or criminal law. Delivering up a person
Wow.
of a Scientologist without defense or protest to the demands of civil or criminal law. In other words, turning a Scientologist over to the authorities when the authorities are looking for them. Doing that
Wow.
is a suppressive act in Scientology. It's saying right there that you need to push back, that if you're going to deliver that person up, then you better protest the demands of civil or criminal law. Do you remember? Oh gosh, it was maybe like a month or two ago. The protesters were outside one of the orgs. I think it might have been in the Valley. And it's when Jessica Palmadessa, this Scientologist, assaulted her, took off in the building, and they hid him.
Right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Ding, ding. This
Yeah.
is why Scientologists are not allowed to deliver up the person of a Scientologist without defense or protest to the demands of civil or criminal law. They're not allowed
And
to. It's a suppressive act.
yeah, and they have done similar things of when somebody committed a crime. I mean, an actual crime, not a Scientology crime, a crime in a country, and they were, for example, a SEAL member. Well, they would just ship them off to a different SEAL base in a different country, and they would just work over there, and they would just disappear.
Yeah, every single time. I mean, we heard Matt Pesh in a video talking about how he handled the finances for moving around perpetrators and
Right.
victims of
Exactly.
SA. Yeah, that because it would have been a suppressive act to turn them over to the authorities.
That's
Which
right.
again, do you see the theme here in Scientology and why it's so culty, people? I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but the fact that these are the things that get you
Yeah.
declared a suppressive person in Scientology. If I were to turn over a Scientologist that I knew was harming his family, child, spouse, whoever it is, and he was under investigation from the authorities and I knew something, if I shared it or shared the location of somebody they're looking for who's a Scientologist, that can get me declared a suppressive person in Scientology.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not culty at all.
Not at all. No, because they see themselves above the simple laws of the land, of the petty
Yeah.
laws. They see themselves that their own ethics, their own standards is so much higher than everybody else's. They don't have to take care of the law of the lands, except when it suits them, of course.
Yes, exactly. When it's, chalk writing on the sidewalks, then suddenly they're all about the
Right.
law. We're all about the
Yeah,
law
that's right.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about child labor laws or anything like that, or, human trafficking laws. None of that. We're not looking at that. We're not looking at that.
No, no, no.
Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, Michelle and Reese, you're right. Cult of Scientology is guilty of harboring and protecting criminals. They are.
Yeah.
And this shows too why they are, because L. Ron Hubbard said it's a suppressive act. You can be declared a suppressive person, excommunicated, cut off from your friends and family in Scientology if you turn over a Scientologist to the authorities who has broken the law.
Yeah. That's right.
This is just crazy. This is just crazy. So, knowingly giving false testimony to imperil a Scientologist. I don't remember the definition of that word used that way. Knowingly giving false testimony to imperil a Scientologist. To
To
get in the
hinder,
way
is it to
of?
hinder? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. To hinder, to get in the way of, to make it more difficult, to make life more difficult, I think.
yeah.
If anybody who actually, what do I know? I don't have any school. I don't have a school graduation. I didn't finish school. I left school. So if anybody is smart down there in the chat, do let us know what that means exactly. But I think we're going in the right direction.
No, I
Yeah.
think you're right. So if you've ever done anything, if you've knowingly given false testimony to hinder a Scientologist. That is
Yeah.
something that I definitely have not done. None of it has been
No.
false.
No.
No, I haven't done that. And you know what?
No.
I just like that. I mean, that's one I like would be like, okay, nobody really should be doing that. You don't have to.
Yeah.
There's enough
Yeah.
factual things that they're doing that are illegal. We don't need to make it up.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so that's knowingly. Okay, so here's a good one. Blackmail of Scientologists or Scientology organizations threatened or accomplish, in which case the crime being used for blackmail purposes becomes fully outside the reach of ethics and is absolved by the fact of blackmail unless repeated. That is a lot of word salad right there, but it basically sounds like if basically you're threatening to turn over a Scientologist or Scientology. So if you threaten to do that outside the realm of ethics, in other words, simply put,
Right. Yeah.
if you are a victim of SA and Scientology and you go to the authorities, you are committing a suppressive act
That's
because
right.
that
Because
would
it has to be
completely
done within,
Mhm.
within it. Yeah.
has to be done within. So blackmail of Scientologists, and that's cute too that they call it blackmail because they're basically saying if somebody assaults me in the Sea organization and I say, "Hey, I am going to the authorities with this. This is not
Mm.
okay." That's considered blackmail. You know, you
Yeah.
see how they're positioning it, how they
Yeah. Yeah.
position
Yeah.
turning people into the authorities as blackmail, as suppressive acts, so that you become conditioned since 1978 when he wrote this to not
Mm.
do that. It's a suppressive act. What do you think?
And it's just so ironic because blackmail is basically what Scientology uses. I mean, they have our ethics folders, they have our PC folders. They could use any of that, and they have used the stuff that we have said in confidence to blackmail people or just disconnection to blackmail.
Yeah.
If you're not gonna come and handle the situation, you're never gonna be able to talk to your daughter. You're never gonna be able to talk to your parents or whatever. So it's just ironic.
No, you're totally right. Merely hit the nail on the head. Blackmail equals reporting a crime to the police. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you can see the mental gymnastics that Scientologists have to go through. And these are presented to them. When I left Scientology and two Sea Org members flew out to Minnesota to handle me, and I
Mm.
met with them because I wanted the closure because, I broke up with them.
Yeah, that's
That
right.
that's what they did is they show me these list of suppressive crimes and pointed
Yeah.
to the ones that they felt I had committed. And that list was light. So I've been working really hard for 14 years to check as many boxes as I can.
Oh, well done. Did you make like a check sheet where you can always sign off every point so far?
Oh, I love a list. I'm a Virgo. I got a list
Yeah.
going. All the ways I can
Right.
blackmail Scientology, as they call it. For me,
Perfect.
it was just
Yeah.
exposing their crimes.
Yeah.
Spreading false tales to invalidate clears. Hmm.
Interesting.
Spreading false tales to invalidate clears. False tales. Well, maybe that's it.
What?
Maybe any tales. They're saying that, oh, that's
Yeah.
false.
Yeah. Because I think they would consider false statements if I were to say, well, if you're a clear and you were born in 1978, so where were you on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the 3rd of October 2001? Go. You're supposed to know it immediately. If you don't know, well, then you're not a clear. Maybe that saying something like that, for example, could be perceived as a false tale. I'm not
Yeah.
sure because
Even though
technically
that's
speaking,
what
it's
all our members
true.
say.
Right. Technically speaking, it's
Yeah.
true, but it's sort of I don't know because I mean that's I'm trying to switch on my Scientology brain, trying to think, okay, what like how like I would see that, for example, as just absolutely not true and whatever. And so I think that sort of thing would be included in that, in which case I'm perfectly guilty. Thank you very much. And give myself a nice little tab for that.
Yeah, give yourself a point for that. Spreading false tales to
Mm.
invalidate clears. I would probably be found guilty of that for Scientology as well because I shared that they don't have perfect memory, myself included. And
Yeah.
all of the things, most of the things that I read about the state of clear that L. Ron Hubbard talks about, you don't actually attest to any of that. It's basically
Yeah.
you realize you've been mocking up your own reactive mind and you're not going to do it anymore. That's got
Mm.
nothing to do with memory and other things. So I always thought it's almost like in the early days of 1950, he was really trying to sell it. So he's like,
Yeah.
oh, perfect memory, perfect recall, just,
Yeah.
right away dates and stuff. Maybe that's why he
But I
did
find
it.
it interesting that he only talks about clear and not OT. Or did he not in 78? I mean, the OT was already discovered at this point.
Yeah, at least through OT3 at the time. Back then
Yeah.
it was called OT7.
Right.
Huh. Interesting.
Mm.
Interesting. Okay, let's take a look at this. So let's see. uh, Spreading libelous and slanderous statements about the alleged behavior of clears. Doesn't this make you
Ah.
think back in 1978, it was the 70s? These people were partying and getting down to all kinds of
Mm.
shenanigans, and some
Yeah.
of them were probably clear. And instead of handling them or their ethics, it was, you're not allowed to say anything bad about somebody who has achieved the state of clear. L. Ron Hubbard outlawed
Right.
it. You cannot
Yeah.
speak badly. That's one way to stop it from happening, is to just say you can't say
Yeah.
it to begin with.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Have I done that? Spreading libelous and slanderous statements about the alleged behavior of clears. Libelous and slander. Well, for slander, to be slander, it has to not be true. So I don't believe I've done that one.
No,
I
me
don't.
neither.
Scientology might disagree, but hey. Okay, so let's see. So this one here. First degree murder, arson, disintegration of persons or belongings.
Let's note it's right at the bottom. Right at
Yeah.
the bottom. It's one of the first things. It's like, don't kill each other. It's like, oh, and once, like, if you can't find anything else they did, maybe they murdered somebody. Okay, maybe we can get them on that to declare them.
Yep, you're totally right. You're totally right. If all else fails, yeah, just don't commit murder. Don't do
Yeah.
that. So those are the main 22 points of what you need to do
Mm.
to be declared a suppressive person. It does get into the second part, which has to do with disavow, splintering, and divergence, which is basically public
Mhm.
disavowal of Scientology or Scientologists in good standing. Again, I do that every single day. I publicly disavow Scientology on a regular basis. You
Yeah.
probably fall into that camp too, huh?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, announcing your departure from Scientology, but
Mm.
not by reason of leaving an organization, a location, or situation, or death. So,
Right.
announcing a departure from Scientology, and we've talked about
Mm.
this on the channel. You're not allowed to say you've even left Scientology if you're
Yeah.
following Scientology doctrine.
Yeah. That's right.
Seeking to resign or leave course or sessions, refusing to return despite normal efforts. So remember, again, this is design. It's so stacked against Scientologists because you're not allowed to say you want to leave, and you're not
Hmm.
allowed to say that you have left, and you're not allowed to say that you have disagreement. So that's really all this other section is about, is
Yeah.
basically just not being able to like leave or resign or seek to leave or help people who are in your same boat there. So
Right.
let's see here. Let me look at this briefly. We're not going to go through all the rest, but that is basically, those are the main ones there. Then you get into the public disavow and all that. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
more, Michelle and Reese. There is more. There is more,
Yeah.
but time does not permit us to go through the rest. But those are the main ones. So you guys can tell us now, or if you're catching this on the replay, I want to hear in the comments, how many of these suppressive acts are you guilty of? And let's just get in the spirit of things. How many of these do you think you can accomplish by the end of the year? What do
We
you
want to see
think,
statistics.
Daniel?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Show us your stats.
That's right. Can you see
Mm.
how these are used and designed? It's a control mechanism. And I think this is
Oh,
one of the
definitely.
biggest things. Yeah. Talk a little bit about how this played into your experience in wanting to leave Scientology and the Sea Org.
Well, it's interesting because I mean the reason why I left Scientology really is because I wanted. I know I don't want to bring the mood down, darlings, but I wanted to, delete myself while I was in working for Scientology, and I was a fervent believer of Scientology, and so I didn't want to damage the church by doing that while on staff, and that's why I left the to not harm the church. That's the reason why I left, and I was still very
Mhm.
much a Scientologist. And then when I left, and then I was still very much in Scientology. And then when I left, I was a Scientologist, and I would still go to do the courses. And I knew I always have to um, show that I'm very pleased with the course, that I'm very happy to be there. Because I just knew if I didn't do that, if I didn't look happy, they would want to investigate. Well, what is going on? What is going on? If the technology isn't working, then it's because ethics isn't in, right? So the ethics needs to be put in so that the technology can actually work. Because if you committed crimes or whatever, the idea is you cannot gain any wins. So that is why you don't look very happy about these sort of things. And also you're not allowed to, well, again, you're not allowed to criticize in any way. So everything that you think to yourself, oh, that's a bit strange or whatever, you just keep to yourself. And the funny thing is, I have a suspicion that pretty much every person, every Scientologist thinks to themselves, oh, I must be the weird one. Like,
Oh,
look at this guy. Look at this guy. He's happy. She's happy. They've just attested to this. And so I must be the weird one. Maybe it just doesn't quite work for me. Maybe I haven't, I don't get it yet. Maybe I have to go up higher on the bridge. Maybe if I do the next step, then I get it. And I have a suspicion because I've spoken to a few ex-Scientologists who all thought in a similar way as I did that, I'm the weird one. Maybe it just doesn't work for me as well because I'm looking at everybody else and they seem to be happy. So clearly it's working, and it's this whole weird, um, everybody's just sort of lying to themselves. And if everybody were actually honest and say what they actually thought about it and the actual wins that they had, I think the organization would collapse so quickly, which is why they need to have such a tight grip on free speech, on critical thinking, making sure, as you mentioned earlier, you need to go to the org regularly. You're supposed to go to the org, I believe, 2.5 hours a day or 12.5 hours a week. And like, for example, if you work all week and you can't come throughout the week, okay, you come on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, you come for 12.5 hours, and then you've done the amount that you have. You always have to be in that environment, And then when I was forced out of the environment, I didn't want it intentional. It happened that way. That is the moment where I started my brainwashing, to sort of lesson. And then I slowly started to wake up. And exactly that is the sort of thing that Scientology is trying to stop from happening. And that's why we have all these beautiful suppressive acts and all of that.
yeah, you're 100%
Yes.
right. This is an interesting comment from Winston Smith. There is no overts and withholds. It is my method to control people. LRH wrote this to David Mayo and Bill Franks in 1974. So David Mayo, I don't know if it was in
Wow.
1974, but he was the senior case supervisor international, right? Wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
If my
Yeah, that's right.
Scientology lore is correct. Winston, wasn't
Yeah.
he? David Mayo, and then at some point, David Mayo broke away. I think Bill Franks did too, right? And then didn't David Mayo start his own squirrel group, as Scientology called it? He practiced Scientology outside of the church. But that
Mm.
is interesting that he would say that there's no overts and withholds. It's my method to control people. I found that interesting because overts and withholds, so harmful acts that we commit against our values or the values we agree to with the group, and
Mm.
then we withhold that. A lot of times in Scientology, it's so much about like what a piece of crap you are for what you did. But one thing
Mm.
I've come to learn in life is that so many things are actually neutral. They're not good or bad. We
Yeah.
make them mean it's good or bad. Something
Mm-hmm.
for me could be good. If I wanted to build a condo building and I needed to take down the building your apartment's in that you really love the view of, and I
Mm.
buy it to do that, for you it's bad And you might think this is horrible, but for me, it's good because I think it's going to be better for the area. It's going to bring more housing. It's going to
Mm.
be, just a nicer space. It's going to be newer. Maybe
Yeah.
it can even be more sustainable. Look at me. I'm already like creating it. You can tell I
Yeah.
love real estate.
Yeah.
But for me, it would be good. For you, it would be bad. So this
Right.
idea in Scientology is it's Scientology that dictates what the overt is, what the harmful act is, and that you
Hmm.
have to believe it that way. And that makes sense
Yeah.
that L. Ron Hubbard would use that to control people, because if you convince someone, especially people who are basically, most people I believe to be are decent and good and want to do well and want
Mm.
to, want others to do well. You could control them by making them feel like all these things that they're doing that are just not bad are that they're bad, and you make them
Yeah.
feel crappy and you control them.
It's intentionally made so it's black and white. There's
Yeah,
no gray
yeah.
area. There's no because if there's a gray area, that would allow you to think about it, right?
Mhm.
Allowed you to think, okay, where does it fall? Okay, let's look at it more precisely. But if it's just black and white, it's either good or bad. It's just much quicker to decide. Okay, this is a good thing. This is a bad thing. And it doesn't allow you to actually look at the nuance, as you gave with this perfect example, right? Where for
Yeah,
one person it's a horrible thing, and the other person it's a great thing.
yeah, and
Yeah,
it's Scientology who decides, even with those suppressive
that's right.
acts that we just went through. You
Yeah,
can you can be committing espionage as long as it's for Scientology.
that's right. Yeah.
Auntie Sasa. Osa, send us our paperwork, please.
Yes, please. In goldenrod. Thank you very much.
That's right. Yeah, self-policing.
Yeah.
Self-policing. It becomes that. And Winston said most religions has the method, sins, karma, etc., create self-policing.
Hmm.
Self-policing is so much about Scientology that I think a lot of people don't understand, because they're like, well, but you're by yourself over here. Why couldn't you just leave? It's the
Mm.
mind control is so strong to put
Yeah.
you're so convinced that
Hmm.
they're right and you're wrong, and it's black and white and there's nothing in between.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, yep, you're right. There's no gray, just expensive. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Expensive gray. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. It's a very expensive gray. Nancy says, and now you're broke and have no credit. Yep.
Hmm.
That is exactly kind of what they would have happen. Oh, it's
Yeah.
so fascinating to me. I'm so glad that you took the time to do this. This was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
Yes. Now tell me, do you have what do you got cooking, pun intended?
Pun very much intended. Well, I've got a few interviews I might do in the future, or maybe not an interview, but like we did today, like a chat about a certain part of Scientology
Yeah.
with another ex-Scientologist. Obviously, I'm going to do some more suppressive cooking. Now, I've done 3 so far, but they've all been sweet things. I've all done baking, so I want to do some savory things, because when I
Oh.
was in the galley, I did, for example, a couple of very good curries, I have to say. So I would want to do that as well. Lasagna and all of these sort of things that we did while I was cooking for the staff. So
Ooh,
I'm
that
working a
sounds
little bit on
great.
that, but I have to change up my setup a little bit, because as many people will have noticed, I have the same background when I do the cooking, which means I can't do it in my kitchen because I've got this tiny little kitchen, and so I always have to do it here. So I have to change the setup a little bit so I can do actual cooking, here on this setup. But yeah, that's what I'm working on. I'm doing also more. I'm going to do a video about elder abuse, what I have
Mm,
seen when I was at St. Hill. At Walsh Manor, this is where the birthing is, where all the people live, and then it's a 20 minutes drive to get to St. Hill. And
mhm.
in Walsh Manor were basically the old people just there waiting to, as they say, drop the body. And it was a very sad sight. And I want to talk about, I will be doing a video about that, and the different policies that we had, for example, from the galleys, what was followed, what wasn't followed at all. Or, for example, the fact, like, how much money I actually had to cook for all the staff. And from the same pot, I had to cook special food for the senior executives of CMO. So I didn't
Wow.
have extra money allocated for them to cook their special food. It came from the same pot as for everybody else. Things like
Wow.
that. Yeah,
So the money to get special foods for the executives had to come out of the money for the crew.
that's right. Yeah.
They had to have something better.
Yeah, they had to have something better.
Yeah.
And they had a separate dining room so that they didn't have to look at the other people. They put on like a false wall so they didn't have to look at the other staff. They had a separate entrance so they didn't even have to see what the other people were eating. And yeah.
They had that too at the pack base where I was,
Mhm.
and I worked in the galley too, and I worked in the
Yeah.
dining room. I was a steward, and
Yeah.
same thing. You had different echelons had their different levels of dining, where
Mhm.
some could have things a little bit more made to order or extra perks, but same thing. They weren't even like they didn't even have to look at the peons
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was the whole thing is you couldn't bring any counter intention or negative energy even that you possessed and physically be around these people. Like
Yeah.
that's how much they were elevated to that degree. It was really
Mm.
looking back at the time, it was just, you get used to something that's just the way that it is. And
Yeah.
then afterwards, you're just mortified by it.
Yeah. Particularly because Hubbard actually wrote ethos about these sort of things. And he actually said that officers eat the same food as everybody else.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Everybody's supposed to eat the same food, which if you think about it, that makes sense because if the food isn't great, the
Mhm.
officers that have powers, they would say, well, what is going on over here? And then they find out, okay, there's not enough staff in the kitchen, or maybe there's not enough money allocated. And from that point of view, that makes sense. But from what I gathered when I started to work in the galley, that has always been the case that COCMO, the deputy, the chief officer, and supercargo, they always had the separate special food.
Wow, that's true. That happened in the SEMO in my area too, actually.
Mhm.
Welcome everybody who's rating and coming over from Nance Drew. Great to see you here. Winston Smith is
Hello.
asking, will the SP chef start memberships?
Uh, I don't know yet. I mean, I don't even know if I'm qualified yet. There are certain qualifications on YouTube.
Yeah, we're gonna
You
get
have
you on it,
so many
get you monetized.
subscribers and these sort of things. Um, I don't know. We'll see. Probably, yeah. But I wouldn't know what to do. What to do with the membership and what to
Oh,
offer
I'll help you. I'll help
special
you.
services.
You could totally offer like special, like little maybe cooking demos or special recipes,
Okay.
stuff
Or
like
maybe my
that.
personal recipes
Yeah,
that I
like your personal
developed.
recipes, you could do that
Hmm.
for members. It's 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. At least when I got
Hmm.
monetized, that's what it was. Let's put up your
Yeah.
channel here and let's see. Oops, present, share. Let's see, because you've got the subscribers, so you
Yeah.
need the watch time, you need the watch hours.
Hmm.
So everybody go watch as many of his videos as you can. Have them playing in the background, doesn't matter. Because some of these you can go grab a long one, watch a couple of those. Yeah, because you've got a good amount of videos on there, and most of them are shorter here. Am I sharing
Yeah.
the page? Yes, I am. Go over to the SP Chef and go over and subscribe, watch a bunch of his content so we can get him good and monetized and spread the word, people, because I think he's a fun piece to the community because of what, for one, you're bringing in a whole nother area of the world in
Yeah.
Switzerland. So a whole
Yeah.
nother area of Scientology and the Sea Org. And
Mm,
the interesting thing is the similarities still stand. And what was happening us
mm,
to in LA was
yeah.
happening to you there, down to how the children were treated and handled. That's what's so
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
So this too, to think that there's the doctrine of Scientology and the abuses that occur from it. There's the individuals that perpetuate those abuses, but I find it very interesting that you can cross continents and you're going to find a consistent
Hmm.
level of abuse and consistently very specific types of abuse and bigotry as well there that was happening
Absolutely.
here.
Yeah. Totally.
Oh, I love it. A fluffer squirrel says she wants to be an SP sous chef. Jay said he's going to give you some shout outs incoming in the
Oh,
next few streams. That's awesome, Jay.
marvelous.
Thank you so much for
Thank you
that.
indeed.
This person says you're the lemon zest to recipe.
Recipe. I think this is in the sense of when life gives you lemon, you make lemonade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That makes total sense.
Or
Well,
make lemon cheesecake.
oh,
Excellent.
even better, even better. Oh my God, I love
Yeah.
lemon bars. That's a big thing here in the Midwest.
Oh yeah.
Bars. That's how you say it here.
Okay.
Bars. It's like the Minnesotan way of saying it. Let's eat some bars. Let's go to the bar and eat some bars. Not everybody talks like that here, but it's a little bit. But yeah, God, lemon cheesecake sounds amazing right now.
Mm.
Well, I can't wait to see what you do next. Someone's asking, Amber's asking, what's your favorite dish to make?
What's my favorite dish to make? Oh, that's very. That's like naming your favorite child. Well, I would say my favorite kind of cuisine is French cuisine.
Ooh.
French cuisine is my favorite. That's also what I'm trained in, so that's why I feel most comfortable also in doing that. But like braised things, food that has been braised, meat that you've roasted, and then you that you fry, and then you add some vegetable to it. You put it all in a pot, and then you braise it in the oven at low temperatures for 2 or 3 hours, so the meat just falls off the bone and has taken up all the flavor of all the vegetable and all the
Mm.
juices. That sort of thing I absolutely love. I much prefer that sort of thing than just a steak.
Oh, yeah. Well, when you make it sound
Yeah.
like that, yeah,
Mm.
it sounds so much better. JDSA says, I love food, so your channel is perfect for me.
Excellent.
And I do love that. I think that is the thing, is bringing together different passions. And you see that here on YouTube already, to see where people, do put on makeup while telling a true crime story, where like
Right.
Sins
Yeah.
of Scientology is now doing true crime Scientology. I think it's a
Hmm.
great idea. Winston says, do you is it sous vide?
Sous vide. Um, Not so much. Not so much anymore. I used to do that. For anyone who doesn't know that, it's when you have uh, meat, you have vegetables, potatoes, or whatever, and then you take a plastic bag and then you put it inside, and then you make a vacuum, and then you seal it, and then you cook the product in that way. And the idea behind it is, because it is completely sealed and you have a vacuum, um, any liquid or flavor that comes out of the meat, out of the vegetable, is being pressed back inside because of the
Mm.
vacuum. So you have no loss of flavor, and you use much less ingredients, of course, because you would only need a very small amount of liquid, very small amount of butter if you add butter to it, because it presses it onto the food, and you would then cook it by putting it in water, in warm water at a
Mhm.
regulated temperature, or maybe you put it in a steamer if your oven can steam, and that is the way you would cook sous vide. And it's also a much more hygienic way of cooking it, because you're also what's the word,
Bacteria.
pesto? No, well, you kill off the bacteria.
Salmonella.
It's
Food.
yeah, it's pasteurizing.
Diarrhea.
Diarrhea. Beg your pardon, Christopher Columbus. What kind of show am I here at? But yeah, that's a sous vide. It was very. We had a lot of that when I just started off in the kitchen. We had a lot of sous vide. Now, not so much anymore. But I have done, that in the past. But now, not so much anymore.
Body Illusion saying, Samuel, do you do videos in multiple languages?
Yes, I have done several videos also in German, because we don't have so much, as far as I've seen anyway, German speakers, speaking out about Scientology on YouTube, and that's why I decided to do. I have done several ones in German. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great.
Mm.
See, that's what I love too about like bringing this all together. Jay's asking pasteurizing. I'm not sure.
Pasteurizing, that's the word. Yes, thank you so much.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Oh, it's all so exciting. Well, we're definitely going to have you back. We're definitely going to talk some more. I think this was a ton of fun. We're going to work on getting the Office of Special Affairs to get you all your SP declares. Maybe we will make up our own and we will hand them out. You get a golden rod. You get a golden rod. We will just make it rain golden rods.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else? Is there anything you'd like to say or ask before we end off?
At the very end of the session, that's right. No, I'm happy. I'm happy and ready to attest. Thank you very much for having me here, for having the fabulous people in the chat. And yeah, I hope I'll be able to chat to you soon again.
Absolutely, you will. You absolutely will. Everybody, we're going to catch you later. Make sure you go over to the SP Chef, like and subscribe, and watch some of his content so we can get him monetized and going. In the meantime, everybody, get out there and have an amazing cult-free day.